Everyone has an opinion on this one. Your parents insist you buy a house, while the internet pushes you to rent and invest the difference. So let's run the actual math past the first month. Meet Jake and Marcus. They both earn the same salary, live in the same mid-sized city, and have exactly $60,000 saved up. Marcus decides to buy a $300,000 home. He takes his entire $60,000 and puts it down as a 20% down payment. Between his mortgage principal, interest, property taxes, and insurance, he commits to $1,900 leaving his bank account every single month. Jake decides to rent a comparable place for $1,400 a month with no down payment. Instead of locking up his savings in real estate, he drops his entire $60,000 into a compounding S&P 500 index fund. Looking at this month one comparison table, the winner seems obvious. Jake pays $500 less for a similar neighborhood and keeps $60,000 in liquid cash. Marcus has a heavier monthly burden and zero liquid cash. On day one, Jake looks like a genius, but making a 30-year housing decision based strictly on month one payments is a trap. It makes renting look mathematically superior right now, while hiding the mechanics of long-term wealth building playing out in the background. Every dollar Jake pays in rent disappears the moment it leaves his checking account. He is buying zero equity. When the month is over, that money is permanently gone. However, by year 3, Jake's untouched index fund has quietly compounded to roughly $75,600. And when the roof leaks or the dishwasher dies, someone else fixes it, and Jake doesn't pay a dime. Meanwhile, Marcus is getting hit with a harsh reality. Early on, almost all your payment goes straight to the bank as interest. In year 1, he pays over $18,000 in mortgage payments, but only about $2,800 actually chips away at his loan balance. The rest of that money just vanishes into thin air, exactly like rent. Long-term wealth is determined by how those payments are carved up between equity, bank interest, and permanent loss. That allocation changes the math significantly over a decade. Fast forward a bit. Jake's lease comes up for renewal, and his rent goes up by 4%. It's $56 more a month. He barely notices. The next year, it climbs a little more. Each increase feels manageable in the moment. This graph shows what happens when that 4% bump compounds over 30 years. Jake's $1,400 starting rent curves sharply upward, crossing over $3,300 a month by year 30. Now contrast that with the permanence of a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. Marcus's principal and interest payment starts higher, at $1,517. But that blue line remains perfectly flat all the way to year 30. It never changes. As decades pass and the cost of living inevitably rises, inflation quietly devalues the debt Marcus owes. While Jake's red gets heavier every single year, inflation makes Marcus's housing payment feel progressively cheaper in real terms. By year 30, Marcus writes his final check to the bank. His housing cost drops to just taxes and maintenance. Jake, on the other hand, is still paying over $3,300 a month for the privilege of living in someone else's property. Renting preserves your capital in the short term, but it exposes your monthly cash flow to permanent compounding inflation. A fixed mortgage freezes your primary housing liability in time. Around year 6, the math reverses for Marcus, thanks to leverage. Historically, U.S. home values grow at about 3.5% per year. By year 6, his $300,000 home is worth nearly $347,000, leaving him sitting on $78,000 in equity that didn't exist when he bought the place. Marcus controls a $300,000 asset with $60,000 of his own money. He collects appreciation on the bank's portion too, tripling the power of his investment compared to someone only earning returns on their cash. Jake's money grew too. His $60,000 compounded nicely at 8%. But without leverage, Jake only earns returns on the exact cash he personally invested in the market. There is no multiplier. Leverage is the single biggest advantage homebuyers have over renters. It allows a small initial investment to control a massive appreciating asset, building exponential net worth over time. But buying a home is not purely a wealth hack. It comes with relentless, unrecoverable sub costs. You will eventually pay $10,000 for a new roof, swallow surprise foundation repairs, and watch property taxes climb. Furthermore, Marcus's equity is trapped. It is a highly illiquid asset. You cannot spend your walls on groceries or use them in an emergency unless you take on more debt or sell the house. After a decade, Jake has spent $193,000 on rent, while his index fund grew to $129,500. Marcus has spent $285,000 on total housing costs, but sits on $170,000 in home equity. When you net out the spending against the assets, Marcus is roughly $40,000 ahead. This chart maps out the ultimate trade-off between these two vehicles. Index fund investing requires very little effort for a moderate financial impact. Leveraged real estate yields a high financial impact, but it demands high effort and constant friction. Buying wins the mathematical long game, but doing so requires sacrificing liquid cash, absorbing constant frictional costs, and trading your geographic freedom for stability. Math doesn't exist in a vacuum. Route this decision through your specific life circumstances. Looking at this decision flowchart, the very first question to ask is, what is your time horizon? If you plan on moving in less than 5 to 7 years, your path is simple. You should rent. In a short window, the 5 to 6% agent fees you pay when selling, combined with the heavily front-loaded bank interest, will wipe out any equity you manage to gain. If you cannot commit to a Sinmo location for at least 5 to 7 years, renting is the mathematically superior wealth preservation tool. Following the flowchart, if you are staying put for more than 5 years, the next step is evaluating your local price-to-rent ratio. Do you live in a high-cost urban market? Take San Francisco. Multi-million-dollar price tags create an extreme disconnect where renting is significantly cheaper than the sheer cost of a monthly mortgage payment. In Manhattan, massive upfront closing costs and property taxes heavily outweigh the cost of renting a comparable unit in the exact same neighborhood. And in Los Angeles, $1.2 million entry-level homes rent for far less than the bank interest alone would cost a buyer each month. In these highly skewed markets, the sheer cost of mortgage interest and taxes becomes a liability. Renting allows you to live in premium areas without taking on massive debt. The flowchart ends at the most crucial branch: individual financial discipline. When you rent, do you actually invest the difference? The reality is, most renters don't put monthly savings into an index fund. They absorb it into lifestyle creep, nicer cars, vacations, and dinners out. For people who lack strict, decade-long investment discipline, a mortgage acts as a mandatory savings account. You have to pay it, which forces you to build equity. At age 65, the renter who didn't invest faces rent checks that have tripled since they were 30. The buyer, having finished their mortgage, lives for a fraction of that cost. Renting works as a strategic, short-term choice, or a market-specific hack. Using it as a lifetime default means ignoring a math gap that widens every single year. Run the numbers past year 1.